Good morning, Internet, and welcome to the Piper Report. When I was a young boy, I was always so excited when Halloween was near. It was the one time of the year where you could let your imagination take over and be whomever you wanted. Be whatever you wanted. In my teenage years, the costumes were adapted to fit a certain social paradigm. This was especially true for the girls in my class. As Lindsay Lohan said,
"In the regular world, Halloween is when children dress up in costumes and beg for candy. In girl world, Halloween is the one night a year when a girl can dress like a total slut and no other girls can say anything about it."
It's important to preface this video by describing how things were in the past, particularly by describing Halloween, since Halloween is when children all over the world, and even some adults, are free to venture out of their social norms and adopt a new persona. But now, this is no longer the case. The concept of cultural appropriation sprang to life recently, complementing the rise of the regressive party and the PC culture. So what is cultural appropriation? According to Susan Scafidi, as defined in her book entitled Who Owns Culture? Appropriation and Authenticity in American Law, Rutgers Series, blah blah blah, Susan defines it as such, quote, taking intellectual property, traditional knowledge, cultural expressions, or artifacts from someone else's culture without permission. This can include unauthorized use of another culture's dance, dress, music, language, folklore, food, traditional medicine, religious symbols, etc. But this definition doesn't hold merit with the concept of culture. Culture is defined as, quote, a quality in a person or society that arises from a concern for what is regarded as excellent in arts, letters, manners, pursuits, etc. One could also say that culture is the collective artistic expression of a group of individuals that have similar eccentricities, yet express their own individuality in their own way. In fact, America is comprised of a vast spectrum of cultures, all living together in harmony through cultural assimilation. I bring that up because it is pertinent to my next point. Contrary to Susan Scafidi's definition, cultural expressions are not being stolen, or also known as appropriated, from various cultures. Those who abide to a particular culture are still free to continue that culture, even though others may have adopted it. Furthermore, it is impossible to ask permission to adopt a specific culture because cultures themselves don't have advocates or leaders to grant consent. Who is in charge of delegating the acceptance of culture? The answer is nobody. It also seems that the majority of cultural appropriation allegations are directed towards white people. This in itself is particularly telling, since white culture is being adopted from millions of people all over the world. There appears to be a double standard when it comes to race, especially the white race. What's more, if you defend your use of disparate cultures in your life, you will most likely be attacked by regressives. They will say, as a white person, you can't possibly understand what it's like to see your culture stolen. But what culture has been stolen? This is not an argument. It is merely a weak statement lacking any logical foundation, because there is no logical foundation to make these claims. We can look at various examples to see the double standard. The biggest one is St. Patrick's Day, where everyone's out and about, dressed up in green and drinking heavily. This reinforces the stereotype that the Irish are big drinkers with violent tempers. We see many different cultures celebrate this day by getting their drink on, if you will. Does that mean that they stole the culture from the Irish? Or are they merely adopting it as a show for adulation? The truth is that when people discover characteristics of a culture they like, they learn to adopt those cultures into their own culture. How many non-Asian people do you see using chopsticks when eating at Asian restaurants? Should those people not be allowed to do that? Are they offending the Asian culture by doing this? Or are they merely adopting the culture to get a glimpse of the variances between separate cultures. Should minorities not try to achieve confluence with other people simply because they represent a different culture? Can you see where this is going? In a world full of political polarization, the regressive left is now pushing for more segregation between those of different cultures. Segregation inevitably leads to discrimination. It took centuries to transcend the vile acts of segregation, and now is regressing back due to the concept of cultural appropriation, which is nothing but a selfish concept designed to increase hostility between one another. Different cultures are being used every day by others in separate cultures. Modern clothes, like blue jeans, can be attributed directly to white people. Does this mean other non-whites are forbidden to wear jeans? Basketball used to be predominantly played by white people. That has also changed. Now black people dominate the sport of basketball. And what about hairstyles? We see dreadlocks being worn by all races. Even gay culture is being adopted by the rise of metrosexuals. The reality is that cultural appropriation is a facet used to increase segregation, discrimination, and political polarization. And yes, that did rhyme. The regressive left must stop these warrantless claims and realize there is a double standard between cultures, that adopting different cultures is not appropriating them, that a culture is a collection of individual ideals and not an invariable social structure. And I'm done.